welcome to the show. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you could. Glad to be here with you as always. Hope you're having a good day wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show and whatever you may be doing. And yesterday we had a good time in here. Dr. Cass Ingram was in studio. Dr. Sally Bird was with him. As I said yesterday, birds of a feather migrate together.
Yeah. Boy, I got questioned when I got home yesterday about everything.
Really?
Yeah. The chicken thing, that was...
What about the chickens?
How the antibiotics in the chickens can affect you. I've never even thought about that.
Absolutely. Depending on what medications they're injecting, whether it's antibiotics or whether it's growth hormone, make the chickens grow, whatever they're giving them, it's in their tissue. So whatever they consumed, you're eating. Right?
Right.
You could find yourself gaining weight. You could find, any number of things. Absolutely. That's why it's... I won't mention the brand, but I used to get, when I was eating meat, we'd get chicken, and a rotisserie chicken, you get in a grocery store.
Yes, sir.
I won't mention the store.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed I started gaining weight.
Really?
Yeah. Around in my stomach, I started accumulating visceral fat. I'm thinking, what am I doing? And I stopped eating the chicken. Sure enough. And I don't know what that was jacked with, but I didn't imagine it. Food banks among recipients of Butterball turkey recalled in salmonella outbreak. Speaking of fowl, that was on the 15th of March. Let's see. 3 food banks were among the institutions and retailers nationwide shipped ground turkey now being recalled in a multi-state salmonella outbreak. 6 people have been sickened in 3 states. Butterball, which is probably one of the best-known turkey brands, they recalled 39 tons of raw turkey that could have been tainted with salmonella and distributed to institutions and major grocery chains, including Kroger, Food Lion, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food Safety, and Inspection Services commented. North Carolina-based Butterball recalled just over 78,000 pounds of raw ground turkey products that could be contaminated as salmonella. Wow. So, they raise these animals. Where you live, you have a chicken farm. Now, when you go, if you visit that farm, you're going to see conditions under which those chickens live. And, you got all these animals packed in a small space. You know what's going to happen, right? You breed disease. And so they make sure that they get their dose of antibiotics so that they can fight off infection. They're just trying to get them to grow quicker and fatter so they can slaughter them, sooner. I don't eat chicken, but a lot of the people listening and watching the show do. And you say, is there a difference between, Gary is showing an image of, look at that. You got hundreds, if not, thousands of chickens jammed into this space. And it smells, pardon the pun, foul. Yeah. The smell is enough to knock a a combat Marine on his back or her back.
We're in between three. I'm in between three chicken farms.
In the summertime, how can you live there, brother?
It's hard.
I mean, that has to be putrid.
They have them now where they've built them 2-story, so they can put a skid loader underneath them and clean them out. So,
that's nice. Well,
And then you know what they do with that, right?
Put it in the ground?
Nope, that goes to the hay fields that they feed the cows with.
They feed the manure from the chickens to the cows?
Yeah, they put it in the hay fields as fertilizer. And then...
Well, that's what I meant. It goes in the ground. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. They use it as fertilizer.
Mm-hmm. In the hay fields.
Well, didn't I report on a story where they're feeding the fecal matter?
Yes, sir.
Literally feeding the fecal matter.
The pigs.
The pigs. And you eat that food, and, people get sick, and they wonder, how did I get sick? You hear me report on these food contamination, food safety. The federal government does a relatively good job at that. I think they could do better if they had more people to do the job. They don't have enough inspectors. And that's why it's silly to say, the federal government's a waste of time, waste of money. No, they keep the planes safe, flying safe, the trains and highways. I mean, please, the food. It's very important that they do that job. So, I report on these food contamination stories to give you a sense of and raise our consciousness about food and, make sure you have to, what are you buying? And think about it and pay attention. If you have anything that's on your mind you'd like to share, talk about, have questions, don't hesitate to call and contact the show. We love to make contact. We love contact, and we love connection with you.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Don't forget, Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on the Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have over 62,000 views now at Let's Talk Nutrition on YouTube, where everything's archived by date and closed captioned.
For the longest time, the recommendation was for people to take low-dose aspirin, especially if they were at cardiovascular risk. That went on, that's been a standard of practice almost, I guess. 80 baby aspirin, 80 milligram, little, tiny, take one of those a day. Cardiologists have been recommending that forever. Well, daily low-dose aspirin no longer recommended by doctors if you're healthy. And for years, low-dose aspirin has been considered a panacea for people to prevent a heart attack, stroke, or some other cardiovascular-related complication, disease, or disorder. The new guidelines suggest that aspirin should not be prescribed to the majority of adults, or most adults, who are in good cardiovascular health, because the risk outweighs the reward. The risk of what? The risk of internal bleeding. That's the risk. Come back, I'll tell you more about what the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association have to say about this. They released the new guidelines. So you see, what was considered safe and common and good medical practice, now they say no, what? Wait, sorry, no, don't do that anymore. Really? Okay. Maybe you're taking a low-dose aspirin because your cardiologist recommended it to prevent a heart attack or stroke or some other cardiovascular event. American College of Cardiology and American Heart Associations released some new guidelines this past Sunday. This follows studies released last year that said low-dose aspirin, 100 milligrams or less, usually they're about 80 milligrams, those baby aspirin, was not of any significant, did not create any significant advantage for older adults who do not have cardiovascular disease. This point of view and these findings of these studies were published in 3 articles in the New England Journal of Medicine. And apparently it took physicians and patients by surprise who have subscribed to and have prescribed aspirin because they thought it would prevent any number of heart-related ills. Really? Eating burgers and fries is going to outpace a baby aspirin? I don't think so. I've always felt that way. I just never expressed it. Quote, the guidelines are for people with no clinical signs of heart disease or stroke. Dr. Aaron Mikos, one of the authors of the study, said he's the Associate Director of Preventive Cardiology at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Yesterday, he said that. She, Aaron, said that people who have had heart attacks or stents should continue with that protocol. I guess in that case, the illness, the disease process already in play, the benefit outweighs the risk. The risk is internal bleeding. They should still take the aspirin, Dr. Amiko said. That's what she said.
What about aged garlic?
I'm a fan. Cardiologists, some would probably laugh at that, but they haven't. I don't know if they've looked at the clinical trials. You have to be careful how you frame this. Some people have severe heart disease, okay, advanced heart disease, and they may have a genetic predisposition for some sort of cardiovascular disease, including heart disease. It just runs in the family. We had a neighbor, 3 or 4 brothers, all died young of heart disease, every single one of them. Every single one of them. And they found, he was a neighbor. They found him sitting in his rocker. He was deceased, had been dead for several days, and nobody saw him outside and whatnot. They went inside, and he was, and he had 3 brothers, and they were all died of heart disease, and so did he. So it can run in the family. In those cases, Gary, it may take more than a supplement. You may be compelled to take medication. Some people have hypertension that's off the chain, and they can't get it managed without blood pressure medication. It's not to say that taking a product like Kyolic aged garlic extract wouldn't help. It does. It does. But, you can't assume that it's going to confer the protective benefit that you're looking for unto itself if it's a severe case. People have to use your common sense here. I mean, there's been scores, hundreds of studies on that product, hundreds. And it's proven to be very effective. But that being said, my mom had high blood pressure. She was diagnosed with high blood pressure in her early 40s. She lived to be 92. She took her meds every day. Didn't miss a day. Plus, I had her on other things that I think helped. She lived to be 92. So you should consult your primary care physician. Never stop taking your medication until you talk with your doctor. If you're taking that baby aspirin now and your doctor told you to do it, you need to make an appointment and go see your physician and talk with her about it. Dr. Maiko said she had been telling her patients who did not have cardiovascular disease to stop taking the aspirin. And she said they are receptive to that. That's a quote. 877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. There was a couple who were having a hard time bringing a child into the world. She couldn't get pregnant. Well, she finally, they said she had about a 15% chance of getting pregnant. Well, she got pregnant, and boy, did she give birth. She gave birth to a 15-pound, 15-ounce, almost 16-pound baby. A girl. I'm trying to imagine that. Did that child walk out? It's 15 pounds, 15 ounces. Call it rounded off. It's 16 pounds to me. My land. That's twice the amount that, average baby, 8 pounds, whatever. How did she do it? Well, here now in one point they say 15 pounds, 15 ounce. And another line, they say 14 pounds. Well, there was another one, 14 pounds, 13 ounce son.
Don't be stressed out or anxious. Take
back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. I was looking at some research on junk food and why it's so addictive. And they were talking about how pizza is one of the most craved junk foods because it has all of the necessary ingredients to get people to release dopamine in that part of the brain. The amygdala is where that center is for craving and whatnot. And salt, sugar, and fat. When you think about pizza, it has all those ingredients, and the fat, the cheese, the salt, and then the sugar from the crust, carbohydrate. Perfect food. It's ranked at the top, maybe number one junk food that people crave. I do believe in food addiction, and there's no doubt in my mind that people get addicted to food and have all of the classic signs and symptoms of addiction. Absolutely. Some disagree with that. They can. They're entitled to their opinion. The science of junk food addiction, though, tells me otherwise. Lisa Kilgore with Flora is our guest today, and I always like having Lisa on the show. She's an educator for Flora. Flora is a sponsor of Let's Talk Nutrition. Lisa, welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. What is your take on junk food addiction?
Well, as a registered holistic nutritionist, I always have a big opinion on food. And we absolutely can. That you're right about that salt, sugar, fat combo, as well as like the sugar isn't just in the crust. There's a lot of high fructose corn syrup in the sauce, and so that's going to give you that big brain rush of carbohydrate, of sugar, of sweetness that is really, really addicting. I also find that a lot of my clients feel very addicted to foods when really they've just not eaten enough all day, and their body is driven to eat something that's high calorie, and that drive brings them to potato chips and pizza and things that they normally wouldn't eat, and it's simply because they haven't had enough that day, and the body needs to fix itself.
Mm-hmm. Our ancient ancestors liked salt, sugar, and fat, and of course they had different ways, different form. The food was different then, but it was not that much available. And so there was this evolutionary, we naturally selected to go after these foods. They are important. Salt, sugar, and fat are very important, and they taste good as well. And so we have evolved with this propensity to gravitate toward foods with those elements in it. That's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. It's been a curse. And go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. As well as food manufacturers are manufacturing food for those innate drives, like a potato chip, getting that perfect crunch to connect to our ancestral drive to crack bones. And it's such a weird connection, but they're doing that in the food labs in New Jersey and throughout North America.
Yeah, the food companies have dietitians working for them, nutritionists, chemists. They have an army of scientists to manufacture these foods in such a way so that people crave them even more and more. It's quite remarkable. Michael Moss's book, I often refer to it, Salt, Sugar, and Fat. That book is extraordinary. He's a very good journalist, and he got these executives with these food companies to go on the record. How he did that, I don't know, but he revealed what they do. They try to create the bliss point, that bliss point. Not too much sugar. People think, they're just going to jack it with sugar. Not necessarily, or they're just going to use any old salt. No. There are different kinds of salt, and they're trying. They experiment, and they get these ingredients just at the right level and the right combinations, in the and they situate them in these food contexts that people just it's extraordinary. Junk food dominates the food culture, no question. Makes it hard for people to not become obese, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's an apple is very hard to compete with these perfectly manufactured bliss point foods.
Yeah, and it's all about pleasure. That part of the brain, the amygdala, you get dopamine being released. Boy, dopamine can make you feel good. And these foods inspire the secretion of dopamine, and it makes you feel good. And when you don't have that experience anymore, you have withdrawal. And it's just, I don't know. There's some experts in there, that just disagree. They say, no, food addiction is fiction. Have you seen it in your clients? Have you ever worked with anybody who's addicted to food, junk food?
To a certain extent, absolutely. Especially I've seen a very strong correlation between body pain, like chronic pain, and sugar, a drive for sugar, and sugar increases that pain in them, and that just makes this problem even worse. And people who eat really a very healthy diet in general will then have like their Vice, their jelly beans, or their Coke, or something very, very sweet that they just can't stop drinking or eating. And it always baffles me, because if we take them off sugar for 3 or 4 days, their pain comes down enormously. But to keep them off sugar is very hard.
Yeah. So go ahead.
The original inventor of the Jelly Belly jelly bean is now infusing them with CBD.
First of all, back it up. The Jelly Belly, what?
Jelly Belly jelly beans.
What are those now?
Okay, they were the original jelly beans.
Right.
Okay, they have like popcorn flavor and different sorts of flavors.
Okay.
He is now going to infuse them with CBD. So you're actually thinking you're going to eat something that's good for you, but it's still full of sugar and candy.
Humans left to their own devices, Lisa. I don't know. It's crazy. I know you didn't come to talk about that, but I always like to get your take on these things. We'll come back and we'll see what Lisa has prepared for our consideration and to think about. She's very thoughtful and always shows up with something on her mind. We'll see. Flora.com. We'll tell you more about Flora if you're not familiar. 877-897-8255. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, coast to coast and globally, featuring Lisa today. Kilgore is our guest today, educator for Flora. Lisa, welcome back. Are you up there in British Columbia today?
I am, and it's a beautiful, beautiful day.
It is, huh? What time of the day? It must be around 10 to 7?
Yep, that's exactly. The sun is just coming up.
Just coming up. A lot of wildlife where you live?
Tons. I was just reading an article how a cougar was stalking some Girl Guides trying to sell cookies.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we have some wildlife. I've had moose in my backyard, deer all the time, and bear regularly in the fall.
Bear?
Bear constantly. I've had one try to break into my house once, he was pulling the wood off the frame of my window.
They're pretty smart, aren't they?
They very, very smart. Apparently, they can smell meat defrosting on your stove outside of your house.
I can. No.
Oh, Doc, I looked at you seriously for a minute, too.
It must be extraordinary to live there.
Oh, it's incredible. I have a full lake view, and I live on a vineyard, and there's orchards everywhere, and a lot of local farmers growing organic produce. It's really a lovely place to live. I moved from the East Coast about 10 years ago, so I still really love it here.
East Coast of where?
Of Canada. I lived in Toronto.
So this is like living on another planet.
Totally. Absolutely like living on another planet, yes.
I get it. Are you connected? Do you have a dish? I mean, how do you connect to the internet and all that? What technology are you using?
Just regular Wi-Fi and cell service. We have all of the amenities up here.
Oh, you do. Oh, you do have cell service. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
I was wondering how you stayed in touch with the world. It must
only
be
the very, very remote towns that don't have cell. Well, I think they still have cell service. It's hard to not find cell service nowadays.
Mm-hmm. It must and that in the name of that area where you are. I don't need to know exactly where you live, but that area. What's it called?
It's called the Okanagan.
Oh, the Okanagan Valley.
Yeah, and it's like Napa Valley North.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's just like Napa Valley.
The Okanagan Valley, the topsoil is black, and it's feet deep, and 6 feet, 8 feet deep, because over the millennia, all of the water drained down with all those minerals and whatnot, right? Have you seen that earth? That earth is just literally black, right?
I live on a vineyard. I see it every day. And it is an amazing spot. It's also very hot. It's very hot for what you'd expect in Canada, and so we get a really long growing season, and we get a lot. We can grow red wine and all of the hot fruits and vegetables.
Okay, I could talk to you about that for a long time. I'm intrigued. Context is everything, and I ask you about that because where people live has an extraordinary impact on their well-being. Living where you live, or living in an inner city that is economically, deprived and struggling, no one's ever going to tell me that doesn't make a difference. It makes a big difference, and you even express it yourself that you feel. You said that you were transformed when you moved there.
Absolutely. I moved from, I had a good job living in a good city, but still the city was very polluted and stressful and full of cement and concrete, and it wasn't my place. And then I moved out here where I look at a lake every day, and I can walk along the lake and be in the trees. And even though I started a business when I moved out here, so my stress level was significantly higher. I had a lot of financial stress. My health improved dramatically. And it was really due to the change in scenery and the quality of the air that I was breathing. I was shocked by how big of a change it was.
So you're an educator for Flora. They do pretty well. They do. What did you have on your mind to share with the audience today?
Well, it's actually related to our conversation earlier about pizza. What I wanted to talk about was the importance of foundational fats, of the quality of all of the fat in your diet, because we do need it. It's very, very important. We do have that innate drive for fat, but when our only healthy fat is fish oil, that only takes up a small percentage, maybe 3% of all of the fat in our diet. And then our cells are starved of these healthy fats.
So when you say the fish oil, you're talking about the omega-3, the polyunsaturated fatty acids, omega-3. What other fats are you referring to?
So what I'm talking about is everything else. And so it's related to the forage product, Udo's oil, which is a beautiful 369 healthy fat. But it's really just looking at all of the fats in your life. Are you eating a lot of highly processed fats like margarines or fried foods? Or are you having healthier, beautiful fats like olive oil, Udo's oil, organic butter? What is the fat that's feeding your cells? Because your cells will function differently depending on the quality of all the fat in your diet. That we can supplement with these medicinal fats, and they're very important, but they don't counteract all of the rest of the things that we do in the day. We have to look at everything in our diet.
There are only three macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. What do you make of people going on a low-fat diet? How do you interpret that? What does that mean?
Well, we saw that what happened in the 80s. So in the 80s, fat was out of style. It's the fashion of then. Now, today, fat is in style, so the fashion is eating a ton of it. But in the 80s, we were told by the government to eat less fat, and that was a way to curb obesity and curb diabetes and heart disease. And what we saw in the research is the exact opposite. That exactly the year that the government in Canada and the U.S. and in Europe and the U.K. and Australia gave this recommendation to eat less fat, we saw a spike in obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So it really shows how important this macronutrient is to our body and its ability to balance blood sugar and its ability to reduce inflammation, as well as it's satiating. It does make you feel full.
Cool.
And without it, we do tend to eat more.
Well, we're going to get into this today, this very important topic, because it is at the center of the choices that people make. Sometimes these choices are very uninformed, unadvised, and unhealthy. And you have to know before you start eliminating this and adding that. After all, it is about chemicals too. You don't want to blow up the lab. Welcome back. If you just carried over from the first hour, and welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. If you just tuned in, thanks so much for stopping by today. Lisa Kilgore is my guest, and she is with Flora. Good company to know about. And, you know, these dietary supplement companies, there are thousands of them. We just got back, a week or two ago from Expo West, probably the largest natural products trade show in the world. And, it's overwhelming, the number of companies and the products, tens of thousands of products. It's astonishing. I mean, you can't even, there's so much stimulation, you don't know which, it's like a circuit board all overloaded and just smoking and on fire. You don't know which way to turn and what to look at first. It's amazing. And so there's a lot of confusion. And people, they're thinking that's a supplement company. Well, just as food is not food, not just food, supplement companies are not just supplement. There are differences. And you got to know. So I tried my best to try and share that with you, educate ourselves about these companies and what's on their mind and how they go about doing business, their point of view, their mission, and the quality of their products. Flora's been around a long time, good company. You can't go wrong. And you only get what you pay for, and you only pay for what you get. So, you have to just understand that when I talk about these companies, I do so with a clear mind and idea about who and what they are and what they're all about. And I'm not going to mislead you. Talking with Lisa today, we're going to talk about lipids. Lipids? What? Lipids? I don't eat lipids. Yes, you do. Lipids are a family of organic compounds, right? And they're insoluble in water. You know this. Oil and water don't mix, you know that. And lipids are composed of fats and oils. You have them in your house as we speak. You consume them every day. Lipids and oil, these lipids are molecules that are high in energy. They have nearly twice the amount of energy as carbohydrate and protein. Right? And they're a chemical composition. They're mainly carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's what makes them organic. And they perform biological functions that are very important for you. They're the structural components of your cell membranes. And that's no insignificant point. They function as energy storehouses. That's important. And they function as signaling molecules. Now, that may sound a little abstract, but if you just take those three functions and think about what Lisa said, and I asked her, she mentioned that I asked her about low-fat diets. When you start tampering with these macronutrients in that way, and you're starting to eliminate fats from your diet, you're starting to put the biochemistry and the structure and function of these organ systems in jeopardy. You say, but fat makes me fat. Well, that's not necessarily true. It can. If all you ate was a high-fat diet and nothing else, of course you're going to get fat, but I can get you fat on protein. I can. But we don't want to do that to you. And so years ago, several decades ago, Ansel Keys did a study and found that, Ansel stepped all over his data, but nobody talks much about that. But nevertheless, in that 7-country study, he set off a revolution that was a war, ended up being a war on fat. Now, because it was, a contributor to to coronary heart disease. I'll spare you all the details of that. And so there's been an immense and intense back and forth over these decades about heart disease and fat and this and that. And it's a mess. You try to walk through that literature and it's all over it's like a war zone, an intellectual war zone. There's debris everywhere and dead ideas all over the place. So, what is the truth and what should you do? Well, we'll see what Lisa Kilgore thinks about it. I have my point of view about it. And I'll just tell you right out straight ahead up front, I am not a fan of a high-fat diet. I get into arguments with some of my colleagues, and they vehemently disagree with me. And they think I'm just talking about, and when you hear them talk, you think that we only had one organ system, the cardiovascular system. High unhealthy fat diets are, you're playing with dynamite. You're playing with dynamite. I've done my due diligence, and I've looked at the literature, and I've seen the studies where these high unhealthy fat diets have grave consequences, and I use the word grave not metaphorically, necessarily. So I'm not a fan, but I am a fan of eating fat, and the right kind of fat in the right amount in combination with carbohydrate and protein. Maybe that sounds too sensible. I don't know. Lisa Kilgore is the guest. Lisa, welcome back to the show. Just trying to set things up for you, and to allow you the opportunity, the platform to express your view about fats. And you mentioned Udo's Oil, a product from Flora. We'll get you to talk about that. So welcome back to the show.
Thanks again for having me.
So anything I said that you grabbed your face and said, "Oh my God, what's the matter with that man?"
I agree with most of it. I agree that because right now, at least where I live, the ketogenic diet, which is 60 to 80% fat, is the fashion of right now, and everybody's trying a ketogenic diet. And it was created as a medicinal diet. It wasn't created as an everyday for the average person. And while fat is incredibly good for you and serves many purposes, it is not nutritionally dense. So to eat a very, very high-fat diet, especially, like you said, not paying attention to the quality of that fat, well, we can get into a lot of trouble. And I feel this with a high-protein diet and a high-carbohydrate diet. We need to balance these macronutrients for each individual, and that's where real health comes in.
Boy, it's a darn good thing there's not 6 macronutrients. Tell you that. I mean, we've screwed up 3.
I know, like royally.
There's only 3, just 3. I say that I must have said this on the show a million times. There's only 3 types of food: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. This is not hard. It's not hard. And so if you start high this, low that, and eliminating this or eliminating that, something's got to go. That's not going to end well. It typically doesn't. So we get back. We'll have Lisa unpack her briefcase of ideas, and we'll see what's on her mind. And she alluded to Udo's Oil. I know Udo Erasmus. He's been on my show a good while back. I enjoy having him on. He is not only smart, but he's entertaining as all get out. The first time I talked to him, I woke him up. He said, "I'm doing this interview in my underwear." And I said, "TMI." Yeah, he's something. We'll be right back. Go ahead and proceed with your thoughts about fats and what you want to talk about.
Well, fats have been an unsung hero for so long. I still see low fat as being a normal state in many healthy people's diet, while also right now everybody's trying this very, very high fat diet. And what we just simply need to do is find some balance. If your skin is very dry, if your energy is low, if your blood sugar is up and down through the day, adding some more healthy fat to your diet can be incredibly beneficial. And Udo Erasmus, he was the one in the 80s who wrote the very first book on fat. It's called Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill, looking at the quality of fat and how important it is for every single cell. And so he has this all some none statement that really works for everybody. And it's this idea that every single person needs a foundational food oil. We need these healthy fats regularly in our diet that we usually take 2 to 4 tablespoons of a day and spread throughout the day. And they provide about 50 grams of good quality fat to your body. Some of us can also benefit from taking some fish oil supplements, some of these medicinal supplemental oils that make up about 3% of your overall fat, but they can really do a great job at lowering inflammation. But absolutely none of us can be healthy on just the supplemental fish oil alone, that we do need to be looking at this foundational food oil. What are we getting on our food and in our food to help fuel our cells and make our cell walls and metabolism and heal our skin and our digestive tract? Like, fat's just way too important not to be thinking about the quality of your everyday fat.
Does the body make fats?
No. Well, the body can create some. There's some essential fats. Omega-3 and omega-6s are ones that we absolutely can't produce from other food. Omega-7s, omega-9s, and other fats are not essential. That means our body can use ingredients from other fats to make these fats. There are also essential saturated fats that we forget about because saturated fat has been vilified for so long, and that we need also healthy saturated fats like organic coconut oil, organic butter. So we want to be looking at all kinds of fats. Udo put together in the 80s this beautiful balanced fat called Udo's oil, which is a 3-6-9 blend that perfectly balanced to lower inflammation and give the cells the food they need.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening or watching the show, you heard me. I said, "Are they essential?" Fat. The word essential, essentiality. The term essential is applied to a nutrient based on whether it is necessary to be in the diet. In other words, it's essential that it's in the diet, and a nutrient is essential if if either of the two following conditions is true. 1, the absence of this nutrient in the diet will create a specific deficiency or disease. 2, the body cannot manufacture it in sufficient amounts and it must be obtained in the diet. Either one of those conditions will then throw that nutrient into a category of being essential. The body can't make it, or if it's lacking, it's going to create a deficiency or a disease, or it could be both, for that matter. So, the body, it makes no fat at all.
It can manufacture some fats through the fat in your diet, but it cannot ever manufacture omega-3s and omega-6s,
right,
which are absolutely essential for your immune system and your inflammatory reaction to work properly.
The body is capable of making saturated fats, monounsaturated fatty acids, and cholesterol, but Lisa's 100% full stop correct. Linoleic acid, which is omega-6, and linolenic acid, which is omega-3, it's a polyunsaturated fatty acid, are the only two known fatty acids to be essential. In other words, you got to have them. You'll end up with some condition, disease condition, and the body can't make them. So in Udo's oil, you have both of those, right? What's
absolutely?
What's 9?
So omega-9, you get omega-9 in your diet out of olive oil. So it's a monounsaturated fat that our body can produce. So it's not necessary to supplement with it, but it's a good, healthy fat for our cells. And Udo looked at our diet and saw that while we do take in omega-6s every day, but not necessarily the best quality omega-6s. It can be from vegetable oil, canola oil. Well, canola oil is a bit omega-9. It can be from soy or corn oil. We get these highly processed omega-6s that can be very inflammatory. So he looked at our actual diet and said, what we need more of is omega-3s. So he made his oil heavy in omega-3s. And then we also need the anti-inflammatory omega-6s because we don't get many of that. So he added those in. And that is as evening primrose oil, healthy, properly pressed sunflower and sesame oil. And this balance created this beautiful oil that makes your skin glow and your inflammation come down and makes your whole body function better.
Safflower oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, olive, canola, peanut oil, sesame oil, grapeseed oil. Any that I just mentioned you wouldn't consume?
Generally, no. A properly pressed olive oil, like an extra virgin olive oil that is in a dark bottle that's been cold pressed, that still smells like olives, I'll take that. But everything else, absolutely not. The chemical process alone to press them is pretty intense. You can get sunflower oil pressed properly or pressed badly, and most of the conventional sunflower oil in food and on the shelves is not good for you.
So you're saying it's the way they handle the oils that makes them. If they were pressed, well, we come back. We're headed into some message. I'm trying to squeeze this in. I can't. So we'll come back. I will then air it fully. So your day-to-day diet, how much fat and what kind of fat are you eating? And it does make a difference. It's qualitative, and it's a qualitative and quantitative. How can I put it? It's of qualitative and quantitative importance, and it's true of all three macronutrients. But it is interesting how controversy swirls around, especially carbohydrate and fat. Protein, people say, oh, protein is good. They don't want to argue too much about it, but they will argue pretty ambitiously about carbohydrate and about fat. And oftentimes the parties that are arguing, neither party knows what they're talking about, which makes for a stupid conversation. I've witnessed those. They're terrible. Hopefully that's not happening here. I know it's not. Not with my guest, Lisa Kilgore. Lisa, welcome back. So would somebody notice a difference if they started to introduce some of these more healthy fats in the right combinations and the right kind of fats into their diet? You think they would notice?
Absolutely. The first thing that most people notice when they add more fats to their diet is they just kind of feel a bit more steady through the day. Their energy gets a bit more steady. And that can be done just by switching out your oils to healthier oils, bringing in Udo's oil as a supplemental oil. And it doesn't take very long before you start feeling that. It can take as little as a few days. The next thing you feel is your skin starts feeling fantastic. So if you have dry skin, itchy skin, especially right now where I live, it's winter's almost over, and dry, itchy skin is very, very common. And healthy fat can make your skin glow and just look fantastic. And your hair will also get shinier and wonderful. And then what you don't feel is your metabolism working a bit better. Those cells that you make every single day are made as a better quality cell, and that will change how your whole body functions. And over the years, your body just becomes more and more resilient and healthier. It's amazing.
877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. So that what is the sourcing, the raw material for Udo's Oil 369?
So they sort really beautifully to their plant in Canada, and they get all the ingredients in, and then they do their own testing. So the flax seeds are from either Canada or Argentina. They're really, really specific on where they're getting the quality of their ingredients, and then they do their own thing to make sure that those oils are treated as well as possible. Before I knew anything about Udo's oil, I was against it. I thought, no, these are oils that don't like being pressed. Then I tried it myself, and my asthma that was hard to stabilize got stabilized. My skin got better. I felt so fantastic. And then I learned it's how they press them. They press them in these small, teeny tiny little presses. Like, it's unbelievable the work that they go through to press each one of these seeds to make sure it's as healthy and full of antioxidants and nutrients as possible. None of these seeds like any heat, so all it takes is a big press to start to change the quality of that oil. You were breaking up for whatever reason. Did you say that the raw materials for all those oils are from plants? Is that what you said? Yes, it's entirely a plant-based product, so it's good for vegans, vegetarians, for everybody. Mm-hmm. And you feel that coming. A lot of people don't understand that there are fats in plants. They think fats are only in animals. There's some beautiful fats in plants. So we get some good fats in animals, but we also get some really lovely fats. ALA, the alpha-linoleic acid, the initial form of omega-3s, come primarily from plants. And then animals eat those like fish will eat algae that has ALA in it, and that turns into the EPA and DHA that is the medicinal fat that's in fish oil. So so some animals convert it for us, and then we also can convert it. So a vegetarian, vegan, somebody who doesn't want to take fish oil can absolutely still get all of these medicinal fats simply by taking a good quality plant-based essential oil.
How much of that of the Udo's oil should a person take a day?
You want to aim for a 2 to 4 tablespoons of healthy additional fat into your diet. So that could be entirely Udo's oil, or it could be some Udo's oil and some, say, coconut oil or extra virgin oil or organic butter. We just want to be adding consciously these healthy fats into our diet.
Mm-hmm. Was there any other supplement or food-based product, dietary supplement, food-based product from Flora that you wanted to put a spotlight on?
Well, Udo's oil, I think, needs a big spotlight because fat is so questioned right now in our diet that we just simply don't look at the quality of our fat. We either say no to it or we eat it in ways that aren't necessarily good for ourselves. And to kind of change that way of looking at it and be very, very conscious of the quality of fat in your diet, I find that can make a huge difference to your overall health. And when we are just aware of the healthy fats in our diet, it's amazing the changes that can happen. I add fat to people's diet constantly because I find low-fat people everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the fats, when you compare and contrast them, the fats found in plants and the fats found in animals, do you think there's a qualitative difference?
There is a difference. With plant-based fats, we want to look at the quality of if it's a seed-based oil, the quality of the seed and how it was pressed. If it's in a fruit or a vegetable, and every food is about 10% protein and has a little bit of fat in it. So how is it grown? With animal fat, you can get really healthy fats in animals, but you have to watch what their diet was, because we are what we eat. So we are what we eat, and then we are whatever we're eating has eaten. And so, like our butter can be beautifully healthy, full of CLA, butyric acid, incredibly wonderful saturated fats, or it can be highly inflammatory, full of omega-6s and unhealthy saturated fats. It all depends on what that cow ate to make the milk that made the butter. And so with animal fats, we have to be especially careful that we're watching how are we sourcing it? What is that animal's quality of life, and how close to natural was that animal's diet?
Do you eat butter?
Yes, constantly. I'm drinking a hot chocolate right now with a bit of butter in it.
You drink milk?
No, I don't tolerate dairy very well. And I don't generally recommend drinking milk. The research doesn't show it is the health food that we've been told it is. But for those who tolerate it, organic and properly made cheeses and yogurts can be a great part of as adding fermented food to the diet.
So you don't eat cheese either?
Generally, no. I will have it occasionally because I tolerate it a bit, but if I have it too often, it triggers inflammation in my body.
All right. Just checking. We'll come back. We'll have the LTN health question of the day.
Want to get
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Lisa Kilgore is my guest. I'll give you a question. Didn't talk about the answer fully, so there's a hint. Didn't even mention it, but you'll get the idea. Which of the following is considered to be a dangerous fat? A dangerous fat. Monounsaturated fats, trans fats, or polyunsaturated fats? Which one of those is considered to be really unhealthy? This particular fat is formed when it is partially hydrogenated, meaning that they will add hydrogen atoms, and that's all I'll say. If I say I'm going to give it away altogether, but that's a hint. So which one of those is considered to be unsafe to eat? Monounsaturated fats, trans fatty acids, or trans fats, or polyunsaturated fats? Here's the number to call.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
Lisa, welcome back. How much fat would you, in your diet, in terms of percent of calories consumed, it is attributable to fats?
It all depends on the person. I generally recommend
for you.
Somewhere between.
You.
For me, my body actually does really well with a bit higher fat than the average person, a higher level than I would normally recommend. So I'd say in my diet it's about 40 to 45%, but honestly, I never measure it. I just add it. I get healthy fat choices, and I add it to my meals to suit my taste and how I feel. So I don't actually know the exact number because I don't look at my food as measurements.
I get it. So that bear that you were telling me about, the bears that show up at your house and try to get into the house, have you ever eaten bear meat?
No, I've had moose recently, but no, I haven't had bear yet. But I have a friend who hunts, so eventually I imagine I will get to try some bear.
What about the moose? What's that taste like?
Oh, it was a moose burger. Actually, I've had a moose steak and a moose burger, but they were by far the best burger and steak I've ever had.
You cracked me up.
It was at a house of a friend of mine who happens to be a vegan, and her husband's a hunter. They're a wonderful cook.
How do they get along, man?
Well, he hunts so he can enjoy happy animals that are in their proper non-abused areas, and so they get along really well because if he's going to eat meat, at least he's doing it quite ethically. So yeah, it's a surprisingly wonderful combination between the two of them.
So you had some moose burger and a moose steak. Oh my goodness!
Actually, I had a moose burger to cheer on New Year's Eve this year.
Let's go to St. Petersburg, Florida. Tom, welcome to the show. Of the three fats that I mentioned, monounsaturated, trans fats, or polyunsaturated fats, which one is considered to be deleterious to health, really dangerous?
Trans fat.
Yeah, trans fats. They hydrogenate the fat. They add hydrogen, make it more dense. Saturated fats are saturated with hydrogen and already. So they'll take fats and they'll add hydrogen, and that's considered lethal to the arteries. It's like razor blades, But congratulations, you won a $25 supplement gift card, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Doc. How you feeling, Doc?
Good. How about yourself? How are you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, one day at a time, right?
Exactly.
One day at a time in the moment. Hard to do because we want to drift out of the moment because something is pulling us either forward or something's trying to pull us back into what happened. It's very difficult to stay in the moment, isn't it?
Very difficult. I have to keep reminding myself.
Like this very moment as I speak to you, I could be speaking to you. My mind could be on something I need to be working on or wants to pull me away. Very, very hard to push that temptation away and just stay focused on you. I bring this up because I think it's an essential way to live life. And most people, many people, not most, I don't know what the numbers are, but many people don't live that way. They don't live in the moment. They're either
we can learn a lot from animals, Doc. They live in the moment.
They
can
do
learn a lot from animals.
Yeah, you're right about that. You know that they are in the moment because especially if they're prey and the predator. The predator's got to be in the moment, and the prey has to be in the moment. You're right. Good point. Thanks for that contribution, Tom, and thanks for asking. Thank you for listening, and thank you for asking about me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lisa, what do you make of what I just said? What's your take on that?
I agree with you. Being in the moment is where joy is where there's no stress or rarely any stress, but we can easily be pulled back into our worries and our stress and those reactions that really take us out of the beauty of the moment.
The beauty of the moment. Even when the moment is not so beautiful, you're dealing with a difficult, something is really tough, and, it could be a death in the family, it could be something. To stay, people say, why would you want to stay in that moment? Because I mean, you could drift out of that moment and concoct even a worse reality, or drift out of the moment and not really be mindful of the significance of this passing of this person or whatever it might be. Am I making sense with that?
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. I also believe that those emotions have to be felt at some point, so you might as well feel them when they're happening. Otherwise, they kind of haunt you in the back of your mind, and they're going to come. And so being there in that moment and really feeling it, even if it's not a pleasant emotion, can just kind of help with that process of grieving.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for your contribution to the show and educating about nutrition, and I appreciate, not only do I appreciate your knowledge base, but your passion and your authenticity about it all. I dare say you're probably one of the few guests on the show that's had moose burgers and moose steak. I'd probably, if I was up in your neck of the woods and we were with a couple of producers or something, and we were up there, and if you said, come to dinner, we're going to have moose, I'd probably give it a try.
I highly recommend it.
I know you do. Give my best to the people of Florida. Udo's Oil, sold in fine health stores throughout North America. Get it. Why? Because your health is your wealth.